You are now listening to the Strong Opinions Podcast.
First of all, I'd like to say hello, good morning, good afternoon to all those who are listening and enjoy themselves on this beautiful day. Thank you for taking the time out to just get a bit of knowledge, a bit of wisdom, a bit of information. This is the facts. Want to call it facts? Hashtag facts?
Yeah, well it's probably going to be some strong opinions.
Okay. Hashtag Strong Opinions Podcast. I'm Charles Andrews, and we also have my good friend, my cohort, author Carlos Wallace of 2 books. Not just 1, 2. Life's Not Complicated You Are, and also the other 99 times. You do a lot of teaching, you know what I'm saying? And I think that that's something that you don't rarely hear with authors. Usually they write the books, and that's all they do.
Yeah. Well, because my books are products of my life. You know, in my life, I try to share the lessons that I've acquired over time, just so people don't make the same mistakes or go down the same road, and they can reach their destination a lot quicker and easier by avoiding some of the obstacles and landmines that I've already had to endure.
Yeah, you did a large stint in the Navy. You did a large situation with the railroad.
Yep.
How long were you with the railroad?
23 years. Navy, not such a large stint, 3 years, but the railroad, of course, pretty much my entire adult life. Yeah, it was I'm 5th generation, so it was a lifestyle that I've known about and been a part of my entire life. So to follow in the footsteps of my father and grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather not only was an honor, but it was, I want to say, almost expected.
So, a lot of people say the Navy gives you structure. Railroad company working for a prestigious organization like that gives you structure. But where would you say your structure in life, your life lesson came from?
Oh, definitely my parents and grandparents. The Navy give you, it demands structure, that's for sure. So, and I was telling a good friend of mine the other day, we were talking about the Navy. Actually, it was a student at Lone Star. She was a returning veteran. She was also in the Navy 8 years. And she was saying how it was hard for her, and she didn't really acquire structure until she was about 24 or 25, because she didn't have parents and grandparents that had that type of structure. And I was sharing with her how when I was in boot camp, it was some of those guys' first time ever making their own bed.
Yeah.
And not only do you have to make your own bed, you're doing it at 4 o'clock in the morning.
And it has to be right.
Oh, yeah.
Corners cut, everything.
Everything, man.
Is that still thing when they drop the quarter on it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tight sheets, the whole 9. So, and I was explaining to her how that part to me wasn't a challenge, because I had always made my own bed by the demands of my mom.
Right.
So that was easy. But these are just the things that people find as a challenge in boot camp,
So with that being said, you had an advantage, if you will, by having that structure, that pre-structure going into the military. Did that make you somewhat of a teacher's pet or an officer's pet? And were you at all, people looked at you differently because, there go Wallace, he think he all that?
No, it's in Naval. Well, the way it was when I was in boot camp, it's a division, and it's made up of companies, and each company has 80 guys in a company. And so in my company of 80, I wasn't the only one that had that type of structure, that stern upbringing. So I didn't stick out, but it did advance me pretty quick into being a leader amongst my peers.
You are now listening to the Strong Opinions Podcast.
We're here with the, I like that name. We're going to call it the Strong Opinions Podcast. With,
I like that.
Author Carlos Wallace, Strong Opinions. I'm Charles Andrews, and we're discussing just getting a short, brief synopsis of overview of author Carlos Wallace's life in the military. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to what I consider to be one of the easiest jobs in the world. And I'm going to say it out loud. Dealing with the railroad.
Man. It is. It's I saw the other day where Union Pacific was hiring, and they were offering a $25,000 bonus for people to apply.
You mean $2,500?
25,000.
No, $100,000. $1,000.
Yeah, 25,000. And I shared it on my page, and a young lady that she's a school teacher, and she responded. She said, "Hey, well, I'm going to make sure I share this with all the graduating seniors." And she said, if I wasn't so lazy,
wow,
I would apply myself.
My God.
And I said, the railroad is a lazy person's paradise.
Just some of the stories that I hear coming out, but I also understand that with it being as it is, and I'm not saying laid back and unstructured, because I'm sure it's very structured, because those trains have to be on time.
Correct.
But within
rarely on time, but yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, so still there are a lot of rules that you could not break. Correct.
The thing is, like anything else, there is a demand that and a criteria you have to meet. It's just not physical. It's a more of a mental. And yes, there are a lot of rules with working for the railroad. As a matter of fact, there is the rule book is called G-Corps, General Code of Operating Rules. They call it the Railroad Bible.
Okay.
And it's thick, and it's a few hundred rules in there, and you are expected not just to know them really by memory, but you are expected to be able to apply them with whatever job or task you're performing.
Okay, so with knowledge of how the rules and the core, the G Corps, how much of that ended up in the book?
No, zero. I didn't really talk about the railroad as much as being an engineer or a conductor or my career. I did mention somewhat about being a organizer.
Yeah.
And I came to be an organizer from working.
That's a prestigious position, though, man. We know the world's most famous organizer. That's Jesus.
Yes.
But next to him, Barack Obama is up there on the list.
Well, I tell you what, Barack, what he did when he won presidency is raise the value of organizers again.
Yeah.
Because I think in this new day and age, people had really lost the thought or the value of how important an organizer can be. And so that was one of the things that he really talked about on the campaign trail, and how he was a community organizer for many years.
A lot of people say this about you, though, man. I hear through the vine and grapes that you like Barack.
Yeah.
Wonderful man. But there were some things about his about how he was handling the government affairs or finances, or what was it? What did I hear? I can't remember. Oh, about the he instituted some things with the railroad that made it more difficult, was it?
Well, no, it just depends on your view. Now my father, God rest his soul, he wasn't very happy. When I hired out with the railroad, you could work as much as you want.
Right.
So that railroaders make a lot of money, and it's a lot of them work a lot of hours.
Right.
Well, what Barack did was instituted. He had the Railway Safety Act, which he started as a senator, and it worked its way through the House and whatnot, and it just happened to land on his desk while he was president. And with that Railway Safety Act, it limited the amount of hours we could work a month to 250 hours.
That's a good thing, though. That's you don't
see, it depends on how you look at it. And then it also, when you go out of town and come in on a trip, you had to be off, X amount of hours, mandatory. So it would give you more time to spend time with your family. He also, in the bill, there was also a implementation of we could only work 6 days straight, and you had to be off 2. If you happen to work 7 days, which means if you're out of town on day 6, obviously you have to come back,
right?
Which would be day 7. Then you would be off a mandatory 3 days.
Okay.
So all of these things created a better quality of life for the railroader and his family, or her family.
Yeah.
But it also you had more off time, which means so now you're not making nearly as much.
Yeah.
But you know, I enjoy that because
Right.
I love quality time with family, and there's way more things to life than just going to work.
Right. Well, we're here with the Strong Opinions podcast. I'm Charles Andrews. We have a good friend and cohort here, author and professor Carlos Wallace, with 2 best-selling books. We're going to step away for just a second. Going to do some maintenance here. If you want to stop back, make sure we're going to be doing this podcast as often as possible. We want you guys to join in, leave your information. You can log on to carloswallace.com if you want to get into the books, or if you want to email, you can email carlos@carloswallace.com.
The best website on the web, by the
On
way.
the planet, it is. We researched that.
Yeah.
But we'll be back in a second or two if you want to stick around for the next podcast, or if you want to just go ahead and wait right here. We'll be right back.